Good morning. So, I said I wasn't going to talk anymore about this boat incident in the Caribbean. But that was before I saw United States Senator Josh Hawley, Republican from Missouri, give his rendition of what he took away from the testimony from Admiral Bradley, no relation to Omar Bradley. What do you mean, who's Omar Bradley? You kids today. No relation to Omar Bradley. And incidentally, I recommend his book about World War II, The Soldier's Story by Bradley. If you're really interested in the nitty-gritty of World War II, I am, because it was still going on when I was born, and my dad and mom were both in World War II. Dad was a bomber navigator, mom with the Red Cross. So it's kind of, I'm a World War II baby, not one of those late-coming, what do they call those kids that came after we did the boomers. Yeah, bunch of kids. So anyway, see, I'm digressing, and you got to stop me from doing that. Let me stay on point. So, Josh Hawley, here's his education: Stanford undergrad and Yale Law School. Not stupid, but he's as dishonest as the day is long. And I got to tell you something, to my Republican friends, and I have a lot of them, I want you to listen to me. Republican politicians, not all of them, but enough, that I've been watching them my entire life, really starting in 1948 when I saw how they lied about Harry Truman. They tell whoppers. Do Democrats lie? Some do. But they don't tell the whoppers. Now, I disagree with a lot of things the Democrats do. For example, the DEI, I'm opposed to that. And I think they can be tougher on crime. There are a lot of things that are legitimate concerns that I have with where a lot of Democrats are. But that's because I disagree with their positions, not because they're lying about them. And I just, it really goes back to Joe McCarthy. It's my first recollection of Republicans was McCarthyism. But we still have it. It's gone on and on and on. One big whopper was Nixon calling our criminal justice systems dealing with drug problems a war on drugs, and now you've got Republicans saying, see, we're at war. And they know better than that. So here's Josh Hawley. Now let me give you the scene again, what happened. There's a small boat, and I mean small boats. I had a boat about that size. There's no way in hell anybody in his right mind would try to take that boat from Venezuela all the way across the ocean to Miami. That's insane. And there was zero evidence that that's what they were doing. The reality is, the justification is, well, they were carrying fentanyl. And people are dying of fentanyl. They're killing Americans with fentanyl. Which, of course, anybody who knows anything at all about the drug situation knows full well that fentanyl doesn't come from Venezuela. It comes from, the ingredients come from China to Mexico, it's processed in Mexico, and is delivered across that border into the United States. It doesn't come in from small boats from Venezuela going to Miami. If they were carrying any drugs, it would have been cocaine. And cocaine is not in itself a deadly drug like fentanyl is. But the assumption that they just say was this was a small boat. I'm talking about this particular one. Small boat, and I mean small, an outboard motor boat, carrying drugs to kill Americans. And therefore they are at war with the United States, and we had to send military forces against them. Now, we never did that before. There have been drugs coming in, on boats forever. And the Coast Guard interdicts them. The Coast Guard boards them. If there are drugs in the court, they seize them and they arrest the people, and then they use those people to get more information about where the drugs came from. They didn't just kill. They didn't just go out and start willy-nilly killing people. That's against the law. That's called murder, unless you're at war, in which case it's a war crime. So here they are coming across, according to the administration, according to Josh Hawley, they're heading out in this little boat across the high seas to deliver killing drugs, fentanyl, and he said that, fentanyl, to Miami, where they're going to kill Americans. How outrageous this is. And then they start talking about it. Look at how the poor people that are taking this fentanyl and then they're dying horrible deaths, and it's disgusting. Says Hawley, I'm concerned with those people who are taking these drugs. That's where my sympathies lie. So again, he's doing a quick switcheroo about the issue. So so now you've got this small boat not providing an imminent now here's the key phrase, folks. Imminent danger. Imminent, not long term. They might get these boats somehow to Miami, and then they might get into to start selling them to drug addicts who are going to take this fentanyl, which it obviously wasn't, to take fentanyl, and then the people are going to die from it. That's not an immediate danger. An immediate danger means somebody's there with a gun, they're shooting at American troops. That's an immediate danger. There is no way in hell anybody being honest would ever say that those boats posed an immediate danger to anyone. So they come in, and I'm very disappointed in Admiral Bradley. And my dad used to say, there's physical courage, and my dad had tremendous physical courage to fly those bombing missions over Syria. It was not Syria, over Italy. They lost people in every bombing mission. They would say we'd sit down at breakfast with somebody, and we knew that when we came back, at least 25% of the people with whom we had breakfast that day would not make it back, and he was right. It was it took tremendous courage to do that. But that just say the real courage is not physical courage, it's moral courage. Because if you're a hero, you've got people behind you cheering you on. So you put yourself in danger, but you get the support of the people back home or your fellow soldiers. When you're taking a position, saying something or doing something which is going to cause you to have to pay some sort of a price in terms of your reputation, your career, that's real courage. So here we have this admiral who goes in there, and he knew full well that these people on these boats were not a danger to anybody. If they were carrying drugs, they should have been interdicted by the Coast Guard or by the Navy, the way they had been forever until this Trump administration came into play. So he tries to justify this as, well, these people are a danger, and then he used war terms like the war on drugs, which is not a war at all. Because look at that, and then they switch the subject. Look at how terrible it is that people are taking drugs and they're dying from fentanyl, which, again, not what they were. If they were carrying anything, it wasn't that. So they shoot a rocket. They didn't drop a bomb. They shot a rocket into that boat. You saw it. We all saw the video of that thing. The thing explodes. The boat is in flames. And it turns out that they went in and saw video. No sound. It was just video during that hearing. And there were people. There were 2 people alive. And according to some of the people who watched this, these people were there. They were there for a long time, and they were trying to hold on to this flaming wreckage to keep from drowning. And they were on the verge of going under. They were exhausted. What are you supposed to do, even in a war situation? You're supposed to send somebody in there to rescue them. These people didn't have a radio. That was one of the made-up justifications. They didn't have a radio. They weren't calling an airstrike like they could anyway. They had nothing. They were there without anything, any weapons, without any communication, or nothing. They were just there, and I understand they were shirtless in the water, clinging to a burning boat. You know what Hawley said? He said, well, says Mr. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know if you know who that guy is. Talk about Rush Limbaugh used to talk about pencil neck geeks. This guy is the epitome of a pencil neck geek. Long, skinny neck. You've seen pictures of him running, and he's got this lanky, and he looks like a praying mantis. So the praying mantis, I'm going to call him that from now on, the praying mantis, Josh Hawley from Missouri. I used to live across the river from St. Louis when I was at Scott Air Force Base. Josh Hawley from Missouri says these guys in the water clinging to that flaming wreckage were trying to right the boat so they could climb back in this boat. Remember, this boat is on fire. So they could climb back in this boat and continue their voyage of delivering fentanyl to Miami, thousands of miles away. This is what he said. These guys were a danger because they were trying to right the boat so they could climb into this flaming boat and continue on with their voyage to Miami. Uh-oh. Here comes a Josh Hawley fan. Francois, what are you doing out of bed? Go back to bed. I know all you're gonna do is come over here and lie down in this bed next to me and go right back to sleep. So don't act like I'm gonna go do things. I'm gonna help Daddy. No, he's not gonna help Daddy. He's just gonna go to sleep. Yep, see, there he goes. Climbing into bed. Let's hope that's what he does. So, this is Josh Hawley, a prominent Republican United States Senator with degrees from Stanford and Yale Law School, telling you with a straight face that they had to bomb these people, not bomb them, hit them with another rocket to blow them to pieces because they were trying to turn up this boat. Remember, a boat that had just been hit by American planes. They're still flying around up there. To turn it right side up, climb into it, and then continue on their way to Miami, ignoring the fact that there was a plane up there that had just blown this plane to bits, even if they could get it right side up, even if they could get back in, even if they could resume their trip to Miami, that if they were successful in all that, then they could have been blown up a second time. And it's beyond absurd. It's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie, and it is an insult to the intelligence of the American people. And that's not the first Republican. This is the kind of thing that I hear from Republican politicians and have been hearing about it my whole life, starting with listening to what they said about Harry Truman and the lies they told about him. Constantly. Not all of them. There are good Republicans there, and we've seen good Republicans like the Senator Wicker, who is the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, who said they want to investigate this thing. But there are enough Republicans, and you don't hear that from Democrats. Give me, my Republican friends, a single example of a lie of the scope of what Senator Hawley from Missouri just gave on national television after seeing two helpless people blown out of the water. And his justification is, well, they were trying to get this thing right side up again so they could climb into this flaming boat and continue on their way to Miami. And we had to stop that. It's infuriating, and I'm angry about it. And if you're not angry about it, ask yourselves why not. That's disgusting for a United States senator to say something that is an insult to the intelligence of any person listening to him, and say it with a straight face. And then he's going to get reelected because he's going to run in Missouri, which is now for some reason a red state, and no one says, but, Senator, you said something which is not only a lie, but absurd. And about an issue where innocent people were or innocent or not, helpless people. Remember the criteria? Assuming we're at war, which we are, assuming we're at war, is whether they comprise an imminent threat to American personnel. How are these naked people, well, not naked, shirtless people, in the water, clinging to a boat that's on fire? How are those people an imminent threat to anyone? They were not, and killing them was cold-blooded murder. So, and an absolute violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And I grew up with the Uniform Code of Military Justice. My dad, as I've indicated several times before, was a high-ranking JAG officer, and I worked for Air Force JAG. So it's not like I don't know what I'm talking about on this. But you don't need to have a background with Air Force JAG to understand what's right and wrong, and the immorality of blowing up helpless people in the high seas instead of rescuing them. And what's the justification? Overarching is, well, they were bringing drugs into the country, and drugs are bad. Yeah, they are. And what do we do when people are smuggling drugs into this country or selling drugs in this country? We arrest them. We charge them. We try them. And if they're found guilty, then we do something about it. And Hawley and others are trying to justify the unjustifiable on the basis that, well, these people were bringing in drugs and they were violating American law. They were bringing in drugs. They were guilty of bringing in drugs. And I'm like, wait a minute. I think I remember from law school, you're presumed innocent. You're presumed innocent until found guilty. Not where these people are concerned, not as far as the Republican apologists for everything Trump does. To them, they were accused. Trump said they did it. Therefore, they're guilty. Criminal justice system, what the hell is that? Presumed innocent? What the hell is that? These people have such disrespect for our fundamental principles as a country where it comes to politics that you can't trust them on anything. So my fellow Republicans, I'm not a Republican, but my Republican friends, before you go out and start voting for Republicans, Congress needs to step in here. I will if I'm elected. I promise you I will get involved deeply in this subject. I promise you that. But you need to vote for people who are going to stand up for your principles, which are the principles on which people of all stripes, of all political persuasions, agree, except for people like Senator Hawley from Missouri. He spits on our Constitution, he spits on our principles, he spits on our common sense. He's a bald-faced liar, he's a disgrace to the office, and he should be thrown out. So if you have the opportunity to vote Republicans out of Congress, because Republicans in Congress are never going to do anything about this, think about it. Think about it. So, sorry to blow up, but it's like, it's just, it's infuriating to me, especially when he's talking about the really cold-blooded murder of helpless people. Helpless is the key word. Helpless people, and what the hell was wrong with that general who obviously was trying to appease Pete Hegseth, the self-proclaimed god of war. So what did he show there? He showed a lack of moral courage. So he should be ashamed of himself. And actually, that admiral, in my opinion, committed war crimes. Crimes which, incidentally, under the UCMJ, are punishable by death. Serious business. Killing helpless people is serious business. And you can say what you want to, but, oh, well, they were bringing it. It doesn't matter what they were accused of doing. Bottom line is, these are human beings. These are people. And we don't know anything about the circumstances, assuming, that they had cocaine on board that ship. We don't know why they were doing that. These are mules. And if you know anything about the history of mules, you know that in many cases they are impressed into service by threats to their families. We don't know what the circumstances were, but you know what we could have done? We could have picked those guys up out of the water and interrogated them and gotten information. Find out what they really were carrying. Find out who gave it to them. Find out who else is carrying it. That's common sense. But what they were afraid of, in my opinion, is that if these people were taken alive, they would say, actually, that we weren't carrying drugs. We were fishermen or whatever. They were afraid that the administration was afraid that they were going to get a story which was inconsistent with the story they've been peddling to the American people. And my guess is that this admiral understood that his job was to make sure there was nobody there that survived that could contradict the story that was being put out by the administration. So, I wasn't even going to talk about this subject anymore. It's just every time I turn around, they're doing something which is not only contrary to common sense, not only contrary to our values, but so immoral, so contrary to our fundamental principles that I just have to say something about it. So, what a great way to start the day, huh?